guys doing? Good? All right, cool. So, I mean, you all know me. I'm Spocka, and my partner Cass is right there in the back, and you're at Public Shop and Gallery, and what we're doing right now is today is the opening night for a new exhibit that's up, and the artist is actually here. They drove up from New York, and he goes by the name of Aaron Cohen right here. Please make some noise for him, y'all. So we're going to take about 15, 20 minutes. We're going to sit. We're going to have a conversation about his practice and what he's been working on and what he's projecting to happen in the future. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit of time for some questions if you guys want to, chop it up with him and see what he has going on. So appreciate you all for coming out. And we're going to get started. So this is the free version of YouTube. So if there's any commercials on it, don't laugh. So to start off, I just want you to give a brief introduction of who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about background. That could be family, that could be your upbringing, and anything that might have influenced your artwork.
Yeah, I grew up in Seattle, Washington. I was a middle child. I have an older sister and a younger sister. It's probably pretty significant in my development. I think it's pretty common for middle children to kind of just go and do their own thing because no one's paying attention. So I grew up in Seattle in a kind of religious community, Jewish community. Wasn't really my thing. When I was 13, I kind of veered my way out of that. Just not a religious person. And I ended up in New York City right after high school. My sister had moved out there, and I went to go visit, and I just kind of immediately fell in love with it. And then a couple of my friends who I grew up with, on the same block as me, ended up in Queens. I didn't know anything about Queens except for Nas was from there, and I love Nas. And I was like, let's go there. So I went there. Ended up in Far Rockaway. I don't know if anyone knows. It's literally the furthest neighborhood from Manhattan in New York City. So I was really out there. Ended up going to Queens College and studying political science and journalism. Took school really seriously, was really into it, and then got a job right after school doing marketing and was not really into it. Just kind of hated it. And I knew that I'd always rapped with my friends and always made music, but never took it seriously. And one day, I had a friend named Kyle Raps. He's a rapper from Princeton, New Jersey, but he was in New York. And he was he had a song with KRS-One, I think, and I was like, wow, you're really doing this. How do I do this? How do I? And he's like, if you're serious about it, come over and we'll record your mixtape. And I did, and I put it out, and it got on some blogs, and then from then I was just off to the races with music. And I did that for a long time, over 10 years, touring around the US, touring around Europe, some in Asia, and that was my complete passion. And then the pandemic hit, and I couldn't tour anymore. And I realized that I didn't want to tour anymore. I was like, I prefer not touring. And I had always drawn, but never took it seriously. I never drew something and kept it as a piece of art. I just doodled on everything, everywhere. So I started channeling that energy a little more focused. And I just totally fell in love with painting. I had never painted. I don't know. I think there's something too magical about it. It was too good to be true to be a painter. As if being a rapper is a realistic thing. But there's something unrealistic to me about being a painter. And from the very first time I painted, I actually cried. I was a lot. I was oh, I'm supposed to do this.
So you mentioned the pandemic, right? And making music for over 10 years, touring, pretty serious situations and taking it serious and, bringing it to different levels. So what was that like? What was that aha moment when you realized after countless days of studio time, videos. We have some of your videos playing, and just performing in front of stages in front of thousands of people, and then just like, you know what, I'm good with this. Like, what was that like?
I was ready. Because at a certain point, like I became like so fixated on like being successful as a musical artist that like that can become like so draining and like not really. It just wasn't satisfying to me to like to try and be successful or whatever that means. And I think a lot of people had that experience during the pandemic because everything kind of just slowed down and you're like, wait, I can't continue on this hamster wheel. What am I supposed to do? I think like the biggest fear was that it was just going to come across as I was having like a midlife crisis. If I was like, oh, look, I'm painting now, you know, because a lot of people, you know, people are haters or whatever, you know, like people are. So I just had to get to a place with myself where I was comfortable telling people I was a visual artist, which took a while and like initially was a smaller circle than Instagram or whatever. But yeah, that's kind of how and why it happened. I think not that I was still like very much passionate about making music, and I still am, and I still kind of do that. But my ambitions changed. Like I feel like the rap world and the music world, it's like I'm gonna go to this studio and hopefully this guy who's a little bit ahead of me in the industry is gonna show up, and then hopefully he's gonna like want to do a song with me, and then hopefully we're gonna get on tour with this guy. And it's like I don't care. I don't care at all anymore. Especially because I'm like married now and have a child and another child coming.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. So I just need to like, I just kind of separated the two, like money and career, and like my artistic ambition is like bigger than ever. Like that's why, like literally, I'm painting huge things and like the energy's there, but it's just not like about success in that same way. Like it's not about like external validation. I know like everyone says that, but I can say it honestly because like I know a lot of ways before it was, and like now it's not. It's not. You know?
Yeah, that must be dope to get to a point where you can have a way to express yourself and not necessarily have to monetize it. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that's what you're saying. Like you get to just do it and don't have to think about who's gonna pay me for this. You know what I'm saying? So that's dope. So how would you compare the music industry and fine art industry? Like,
I mean, they're both awful, to be honest. Like if you are involved in like the actual industry. The thing is with the music industry, you don't really have to be involved in the music industry. Like I know a lot of artists who are musical artists who are successful and they're independent, you know, and they just have fan bases and they have big followings and they have email blasts and merch releases and they tour heavily and they're able to kind of make a good living and like be well known within a certain circle but not famous. And like I think that's very possible in the music industry, and that's cool. The actual music industry itself, like going to Los Angeles and like it's horrible. Yeah. Horrible. I've been in like label meetings and stuff, and yeah, everyone's just really fake, you know? Just pretend like it's about art, but it's maybe I think in black and white, but once it's business, like it's not art, you know? Just like becomes a different thing. And everyone is, I don't know. It's a lot of kissing ass and kind of trying to navigate, you know, through social scenes and pretending to be friends with people. And like, I'm like a pretty boring person. Like I don't drink, I don't smoke. Like I don't want to hang out with strangers all night. Like it's not what I want to do. So it's not really my scene. The art world, like I'm kind of an outsider. I don't like have a ton of experience in the gallery scene, but honestly, the experience I have in the gallery scene is like kind of a fly on the wall, like being at events that have nothing to do with me. I was at one event And there's this one guy that everyone was just kind of gravitating around, and he looked like really important. And I was like, who is this guy? You know, I looked it up, and he was just a billionaire. He was just like, he was the heir to some fortune. And then I was at a different event, and same thing, guy who was like, because I thought these people were famous artists. So I was like trying to do my research. Same thing. He's like real estate mogul. I was like, oh, like, yeah, if you're going to sell paintings for millions of dollars, like, you just have to figure out how to be around the richest people in the world, which is like, it's fine, but I don't think it's directly related to what I'm doing. But you can generate your own following and do your own thing. I think it's a little harder with visual art than with music, because music is volume, you know, so you can have like a bunch of regular people who like your stuff, and that can create a career. And with art, like, I don't want to sell my art for like a little bit of money, because it just doesn't make sense, like time wise, you know, if I'm spending months on something. So you need to sell it for a lot. So like in order to churn that out, that can become a drain too. So neither path is very easy. But
I feel you.
But I think painting, like for painting's sake, is like, I don't want to say makes more sense, but like you can paint and just have faith that like if you completely follow your artistic desires, like it'll work out the way it's supposed to. Not that you can't do that with music, but in music you're gonna have to be pushing things differently.
Definitely understood. So as I'm looking at some of your work, and I see you using, like charcoal, graphite, different types of paint, what draws you to certain materials when you're creating art? Like, is it the texture? Is it the color? Like, what makes you gravitate towards the certain colors and materials that you're using?
Yeah, my work like always goes through a ton of different layers. So like all of these paintings, except for the blue one, have been like multiple different paintings already, which has like taught me a lot about life and my ideas. It's like they're always wrong. Like I always think like I'm gonna put this on the canvas and that's what it's gonna be, and kind of without fail, it's like, oh, that was just an idea in my head. That's not actually what this painting actually is. So kind of like listening to the painting is how I go about it. And since after, so many times making paintings, I realized it literally never goes the way I think it's going to go. So I stopped like investing a ton of money into like a certain color paint or certain, because it's like, I'm going to put it on and then I'm going to fuck it up, So I'll buy a color that's like speaking to me, and then I just have like a bunch of random stubs of pastels and a bunch of like mostly empty paint and some spray paint and really cheap acrylic paint. And I just grab literally whatever speaks to me at the moment. And I think like, for me, that's been really the only way to do it, because my planning doesn't work. The planning is good because it like gives me a prism, like gives me a structure for the next thing, but it's never the finished product. But I like blue and red. I don't know, something about purple and green and non-complementary colors, just like, I don't know, they make me a little depressed, though that is green. And anyways.
Hey man, you saying that because I'm wearing green? That's not fair. So this is a very like broad question, but what do you feel makes you, or what in your mind, or I don't know, what makes you stand out as an artist? Like, what do you think that you have that maybe someone else doesn't have, or maybe it's not even about comparing yourself to other artists, but looking at yourself, what do you feel like when you look at your work and you like, feel the energy from what you're creating? What makes it stand out to you?
I think a couple things. Like, I think that I'm like somewhere deep down, like very optimistic. Because like when I started with music, I started working on a song, like my very first song, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be it. Like we're gonna be on, you know, and like I kind of brought that energy to like every song, where I was like, oh, this one, this is gonna be it, and we're gonna be good, which like obviously wasn't true for each song, but like you kind of need that like motor in order to like make hundreds of songs, you know. So I guess I see like optimism like shown through like the ambition of like making paintings that are like way bigger than I have any business like making. And I think like open-mindedness. I think painting has like I said, like seeing that my ideas are wrong, and seeing that like when I put them into the real world, they have to change in order to adapt to reality. Kind of taking that idea from painting into my life and realizing that like my opinions, like when put through the process of other people and political systems, like they're wrong, you know. So like, I guess I see that kind of openness.
I dig that. I like that you have that open perspective of your work and being able to adapt, and it shows from transitioning from primarily rapping to becoming a visual artist. Like that's all very, not to say it is your works from your music and what I see in your paintings, it feels very intentional, but also what you're saying is it's like you go with the flow. You go wherever, you know, the medium's pulling you. And I think that's really dope that that's consistent within your work, no matter what medium you're working on. And it definitely translates as you look at the pieces, because like I'm looking, I can see like hints of what used to be there, and it kind of leaves you guessing and thinking of like what's next. So with that said, what is next? What are you planning? What do you feel like is on the horizon for you?
Just gonna keep painting. I think like I'm gonna go smaller. I think like those 16 by 20 inch ones. It's harder for me to go smaller. I guess it's like you have less options. You can't just like move over here. You really gotta focus in. And I literally don't have room to paint the ones that I'm painting. Like they take up the whole wall. And it's fine, but I realize like less can be more. So I'm gonna work on some smaller scale stuff. That's exciting as a next step. And I'm gonna go back to school for academics, for like urban planning, for stuff that's nothing to do with painting, because like I realized that like I want to be of service as a person. Like that's the only thing that makes me feel like okay. And then painting is kind of my therapeutic, like, which I don't want to diminish it. Like it's not, because people, you know, it's not like a Sunday painter. Like it's like the world is like pretty messed up, and if you go out there and immerse yourself into it, like it's really good to have a studio where you can go paint. And I realize that's kind of what drawing always was for me. Like when I was anxious, I drew. When I was in class and I didn't want to be there, I drew. So it's like, which is great because I don't have to think about it. Like I don't have to take the time to think about a painting. Like it's on my mind, and it happens. It's just like a release. It's like pretty cathartic. So if I'm like controlling the other elements of my life so that they're fulfilling and like important, then like I feel like the painting kind of takes care of itself.
Dope. And I think that's key too, because a lot of artists, you know, I've talked about this with multiple people. It's like, first you're working this job, and then you have like this fantasy that if you can stop working your job, you can start creating art. And then once you start monetizing your art, that becomes your work, and you kind of like in this cycle, you know. So it's dope that you're looking at all the different perspectives and giving each thing like its own bucket. You know, you're not saying it has to be all painting or all rapping or anything like that. Like everything has its place.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like there's a lot of there was a lot of fantasy involved in my mindset of like, oh, I'll get to here and then I can just rap, or I'll get to here and I can just paint. And it's like, that's actually not what happens when you become really successful. You have like a bunch of other shit you have to do now. So I just kind of look at it day to day, like one day at a time. Like, what am I doing with my life? And like, if I'm in the studio painting and like my daughter, who was just here, is sleeping and everything's good in the house, like, it's a good day. You know, like what I want to do is to paint. Maybe I want to paint in a bigger place on bigger things with, you know, different mediums and have them seen by different, but the core of it is like, I want to paint. So like I'm winning if I'm painting, you know? A lot of people, success will take you weird places and places you don't want to be, especially early success. I don't know. What I think about painting changes every week. So I don't want to get like locked into anything.
Dope. And then so as I look out onto the room, there's almost everyone in here is an artist. Actually, yeah, everyone in here is an artist. That's pretty cool. We got videographers, we got people that, you know, make things with their hands, we got people that do all sorts of things. So if you were to give them any sort of guidance or advice or any just words of wisdom that you can part onto these cool people, what would it be? Or what is it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. I guess just all I can share is like my experience, that like pursuing art, for just like trusting that I know what I'm doing when I'm making art, and to just kind of like follow through with it and really, yeah, I think it's like it's about trusting, like I'm making this thing and like I think it's good, so it's good, which is like a hard place to get to, because like we all want some kind of validation. But yeah, I don't know. I think make the work for yourself, and like if you've got it, like it'll resonate with some people.
Dope. So the name of your current exhibit is Raid, and it's going to be up until June 1st. So just with the pieces that we have here, and we were chopping it up early, and you said, you know, when you're painting, it literally takes up one whole wall in your house, and you haven't seen all these pieces up together in one space. So that's really cool that we're here now, and you can see all your pieces in one space, and we're getting to chop it up with you and just hear some of your perspective on the pieces. So if you want to just talk a little bit about why is it called Raid, what drew you to that name? I know one of your that piece right there, the red and blue one, is called Raid as well. So yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, that red and blue one over there. It's funny. It's like the only painting I ever made that like worked on the first try. So it's like very different in texture, and kind of muddiness that's in the other ones isn't there. I don't know. I just saw a lot of things in that painting. Oh, you got a toy? This is May. Yeah, I don't know. And I always saw like kind of the violence of war. I don't know like exactly what I'm seeing, and just like kind of saw it there. And I emailed a close friend of mine who's like an art aficionado, and I sent up a bunch of paintings as like, what should I put in the show? And he like very quickly responded that he thought that was the strongest one. And I kind of put it in as an afterthought because it's so different. So that one's called Raid, and I just feel like, I don't want to get too cliche, but I feel like we are bombarded by noise and information, and it can feel like impossibly anxiety producing. So that's kind of where Raid came in, just kind of like being bombarded, and then that happening, in real life, in the world, pretty constantly. But all the work is different, you know. All these came from different places. But a lot of them, as I don't know if you can tell or not, but a lot of them are kind of like figures. That one's called "Don't Forget Us," the one with the black figure. To me, it's a figure. I don't know if it's a figure, but that one, when I first started painting, I was kind of like moving away from the stuff that I used to draw. Like I used to draw a lot of like people and cartoons and just like weird things, and no matter how artsy I get, I don't want to like move completely away from that, away from like that initial feeling. So that's "Don't Forget Us." The one next to it's called like lipodema, which is, it's a medical condition where like your calves swell up, and I just kept seeing people in New York like on the subway and stuff, you know, in bad states, especially during the pandemic, but always. That's vaguely what that was about. So I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts that go into a lot of the paintings, but if you have questions, it's probably better to tell you about them that way.
Sure. All right. So I don't know, is there anything else that you wanna speak about or you want to talk about? Just in regards to art or the show in particular or creative process?
No, just thank you for having me. This is my first time showing my work alone. So yeah, this is a very cool space. So thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate having you here. And could we please give a little round of applause for Aaron? So yeah, if y'all have any questions, now is the time. Or if you want to hang out a little bit and just talk to him directly, that's cool too. How do you feel? Do you think you guys want to throw questions out now, or you just want to chop it up and chill a little bit? All right, we're going to chop it up. One more time, round of applause for Aaron. We appreciate you.